QUBIC is a new project launched by the legendary crypto figure called, and I think I've got his name right here, Sergey Ivancheglo. Possibly I'm pronouncing that wrong. Sorry if I am. So this project is one of the most promising projects of 2024 and one that you don't want to miss. So let's look at some things got to do with QUBIC. So firstly, utility. So the QUBIC token has a very strong use case that makes it stand out as a revolutionary project that could have a huge impact on the world. So QUBIC is a layer 1 cryptocurrency that can be used for exchanging cryptos with feeless transactions and offline payment verification. So you don't even need to be online to use QUBIC. Completely open source. It can run smart contracts. It's also, with these smart contracts, it's got an IPO with the possibility of passive income. Then it's got Quorum and oracles on this, stuff that I don't entirely understand, but apparently are quite a big deal. And then, really importantly, it can run 41 million transactions per second, which is incredible when you consider the next closest blockchains are around 1 million. And then it's still considered incredible if a blockchain can run something like 10,000 transactions per second. So QUBIC is way, way ahead of other blockchains when it comes to transactions per second. And then the big standout feature here is what's called AGART, which is AI on top of crypto. And that links into the useful proof of work model. So basically what that means is that if you think of Bitcoin works on what is called proof of work, meaning that miners go and solve algorithmic things that have no real impact on the world, and once they solve those algorithms, they get paid in Bitcoin, and then they can sell their Bitcoin. But it's complete waste of computing energy because all that computing energy goes into solving something that has no benefit on the world. But useful proof of work is where that computing energy is put towards solving real world problems, and QUBIC solve those real world problems through what is called AGART, which is AI on top of QUBIC. And with this, QUBIC is solving AI problems. Look, I don't understand the in and outs of these details, but of how it works. But basically, QUBIC is going to build artificial neural networks, and the goal of this is to mimic the evolution of the human brain. So don't ask me what exactly that means in great detail, but what I know is that that's going to make QUBIC stand out a mile, especially in this bull run, which is going to be focused on AI. So it makes QUBIC really, really exciting to follow. So next then, if we look at the roadmap for QUBIC, the QUBIC token is basically just launched. This project has launched. The next step is to begin and expand their marketing campaign. And at the moment, they're released on very low level exchanges, but they're going to start listing on tier 2 and then eventually tier 1 exchanges. Then the mainnet will launch, and then dApps will start being added to the network, and then there will be burning mechanisms included in that. And this is going to be a completely open source network. And with 41 million transactions per second and free transactions, this should attract a lot of projects. So the team at QUBIC, I don't know the team in great detail. What I know is that it's based mainly around this guy, Sergey Ivancheglo. And if you don't know who he is, this guy is a really, really big deal in the crypto industry. So Sergey was the third person to ever mine Bitcoin. So he's been an OG there right from the start. They were also the creator of NXT, which was a proof of stake blockchain. And it was actually the first ever proof of stake blockchain. So if you think of Ethereum as a proof of stake blockchain, this guy created the first one ever. Then there's IOTA, which was the first ever DAG network. So when you think of things like Casper, the DAG itself, this guy created the first DAG ever, apparently. And then IOTA and NXT gave the biggest returns ever of any cryptocurrencies. Apparently, that's what I've read. I don't know 100% if that's true. And this guy, he is very rich and very well connected, and he's been planning QUBIC the QUBIC network for over 10 years now, and the current technology and the current state of the world is only making QUBIC possible now. So basically, this guy is one of the best people you can have fronting your project, unless you're talking about Satoshi Nakamoto or you're talking about Vitalik Buterin. This is one of the top guys that you can have out there running your projects. The only slight issue that I have with this guy is that, as fantastic as he is, he's quite outspoken and he can be quite bullish in some of his the way he talks about QUBIC, which obviously could attract interest from regulators or could end up getting him cancelled. And then also, I think this guy represents a single point of failure for this project. I mean, if this guy was to die, QUBIC would be fucked, basically. So he's really, really important to this project. I think he's going to make this project really big. But yeah, if this guy died, that would be a big deal. So that's just one or two things to think about with this guy. Then if we look at the social aspect of QUBIC, so if we just go and check them out on Twitter right now, you can see that they've got 50,000 followers for a project that's only just been launched. That's a pretty big deal. So it's got a big following already on Twitter and on YouTube and across most social media. And people are getting really passionate about this project and the impact it could have in the world. And I can see this project's community growing to something like that of XRP or Ethereum. Obviously, I'm speculating there, but I think it's definitely possible. So then if we move on to the tokenomics, and this is the area that causes a lot of investors some worry. And I don't 100% understand all of the QUBIC's tokenomics, but I understand 99% of it are the main things. And I think I'll alleviate most people's fears about the tokenomics here. So QUBIC has what would appear to be a really, really high supply of a really, really high supply of 1 quadrillion QUBIC, and a circulating supply right now of 84 trillion QUBIC, which is obviously expected to grow to 1 quadrillion. So that seems like huge numbers, and that obviously scares the life out of people. But then you've got to also take into account the actual price of QUBIC right now, and its market cap at the time of making this video is around $800 million. So yeah, I get why that would cause worry to people, and then also the supply of QUBIC is inflating by 1 trillion QUBIC every week. So this supply here goes up by 1 trillion QUBIC every week, which seems like a huge growth as well. So let me alleviate some fears here and explain these things that may seem like red flags to you, because when you understand it, it's way less scary. So QUBIC does not have any decimal points in its in the number QUBIC. So 1 QUBIC by itself is not divisible into multiple QUBICs. So, for example, if we take Bitcoin, so let's say the total number of Bitcoin that are out there are 21 million Bitcoin. So there's 21 billion Bitcoin overall. Just want to type that in here. So total number of Bitcoin. Okay, so the total number in existence right now is 19 million, and the total amount that can be possibly will ever exist is 21 million Bitcoin. But then each Bitcoin is divisible into 100 million units called Satoshis. So every Bitcoin can be broken down into 100 million Satoshis, meaning that overall there is actually, if you multiply 21 million by 100 million, you'll get 2.1 quadrillion Satoshis. So we've got 1 quadrillion QUBIC, which isn't divisible by any other number, and then we've got 2.1 trillion Satoshis. So if you break it down that way, there's actually double the amount of Satoshis as there is QUBIC. So there isn't a huge supply of... So if you price QUBIC the same way that we price Bitcoin, there would be a total supply of about 10 million QUBIC. And the price of 1 QUBIC right now would be around $80 at the time of making this video with a market cap of about $800 million. Now, from the small and not very good maths that I've done, there are between 600 billion and 700 billion Satoshis created every week, meaning that QUBIC, in my calculations, inflates slightly more than Bitcoin, but not a lot more. But actually, a lot of people that I follow that are a lot smarter than me say that QUBIC inflates less than Bitcoin. I'm not sure if they're right, but either way, you can see that inflation isn't a huge issue for QUBIC. 1 trillion in inflation per week sounds like a huge number, but it actually isn't huge inflation at all. And since there are only 1 quadrillion QUBIC, that means that QUBIC is actually less inflationary than Bitcoin, because Bitcoin can inflate 2.1 trillion, 2.1 quadrillion Satoshis. And then a couple of final points. QUBIC is expected to never grow beyond 100 trillion tokens because it's going to have a deflationary element to it, with token burns and things like that. And then the reason that there's no decimal place, which obviously seems a bit confusing, is that just for efficiency reasons, apparently it makes the system run faster. But then another thing is a lot of retail investors are going to, when they start coming in here and trying to buy cryptos that are in the top 100, when QUBIC moves, permanently into the top 100, they're going to see this price compared to other cryptos, like, for example, Cardano, seeing it at 74 cents. They're going to be like, wow, I could get like billions of QUBIC only for a small bit of money, because they don't really understand the financial aspect of these cryptos. A lot of people are just going to ape into QUBIC just based on that alone. So that's another reason to be bullish. So where can you buy QUBIC? So one of the top places to buy QUBIC right now is to go to Safe Trade Exchange. Now, you've got to be careful sometimes finding these exchanges because there could be fake ones out there. So I would just Google search Safe Trade Exchange, which is going to bring you to Twitter. And on Twitter, you can find the Safe Trade Exchange's official Twitter page. And there you can find their website. And you can click on it. I know it's quite hard to find, but Safe Trade is a really low tier crypto trading site. So then when you get here, you can log in and you can find the QUBIC and Tether pairing and trade that way. And then it's going to be, in the near future, it's expected that QUBIC is going to be listed on some tier 2 exchanges. And the one that we expect to see it listed on next is going to be this one called MEXC. And this exchange, I think, is going to make QUBIC huge, because this is going to bring a lot more eyes to QUBIC, because it's a lot more mainstream and a lot more people are going to be able to buy it. So right now, a lot of people can't buy QUBIC. It's really difficult to buy. People don't like using this exchange, although I think it's fine. And already QUBIC has a market cap up there with 800 million. So we can see how big this could be. It's got 800 million market cap on such a small exchange. But people are eventually then, I think, going to ape into this when it ends up on MEXC. And then what you can do is, once you buy this crypto on Safe Trade, to keep it somewhere safe for yourself, you can go to QUBIC's Twitter page, their main Twitter page here. And if you click QUBIC.org, it'll bring you to the QUBIC website. And here you can click join their Discord. And once you join their Discord channel, there's a section there for wallets, and you can actually just sign up and create a wallet. It's really simple, and then move all your QUBIC over there and store it there safely with your own keys. So then, what is the potential for QUBIC? So, I want to preface this with saying that I'm a normal person. I've just built up a bit of knowledge on crypto, but I'm no genius investor, and I could be wrong about a lot of things. But personally, I think QUBIC represents as good of a risk to return ratio as you're going to see anywhere on the market, while it's under a market cap of 2 billion. Anyway, as far as risks go, there's always some risk, because this is a new project and it could fail and it could go to zero. So you obviously have to be aware of that. But it's unlikely that it will go to zero, because this founder, Sergey, he has such a good track record and he's so clued in. It's very unlikely that this is going to go to zero. And then, even if he doesn't get this project doing what it's supposed to do and it doesn't work properly, it's still just so marketable. I think it's going to be really successful even in the short term. I mean, as we were saying at the start, this project can run 41 million transactions per second. I mean, that blows blockchains like Solana and A0 out of the water, which have transactions per second, I think, of about 50,000 to 100,000, and they're some of the top blockchains out there. This also QUBIC isn't even considered a blockchain, really marketable again. Then we've got the AGART element and the AI element, which is really marketable because, the whole world is all about AI right now. And then QUBIC is a fair launch project, which most of the most successful projects recently have been fair launches. And then QUBIC is one of the first useful proof of work systems as well, which firstly, proof of work projects have been very successful in the last year and seem to be providing the best returns compared to proof of stake. And useful proof of work is the brand new shiny thing that's probably going to provide the biggest returns. And then just the QUBIC creator is just so marketable in himself. He's one of the biggest crypto geniuses out there. And as I said before, he's created two of the biggest crypto projects already that have provided the best returns. I'm not 100% on the numbers, but apparently NXA did, if you bought it on the ICO, it did a return of 1,265,000% from your initial buy. So that was a huge return. While IOTA then apparently did 424,000% return from the ICO price. Now, I don't expect QUBIC to provide those higher returns, especially since it's already done multiple X's and has quite a high market cap. But I do still expect it to provide a really good return. And I'd be thinking you could expect like at least a 10x out of this. A 30x you should be aiming for, but 100x is really possible as well with how big of a project this seems. Like this could turn into one of the top 5 crypto projects. Definitely a top 20 project. Very likely a top 10, possibly a top 5. So let's do some examples of just the types of returns you could get. So if you were to invest $1,000 into QUBIC at the time of making this video and it hit a market cap of IOTA at its peak, which IOTA at its peak was 14 billion, that means this would do a 17x, so you'd earn 17,000. If it hit the market cap of Solana right now, which Solana's market cap right now is 64 billion, which means you'd probably get a return of about 75x, which would be giving you about 75,000 out of your 1,000 invested. Or at Solana's peak market cap of 75 billion, it would do a 93x, which would be $93,000 or euro that you'd have in return. Or then Cardano's top market cap, which was 93 billion, which would give you 116 times return, or a return of $116,000. Or even just Cardano now, which Cardano's market cap right now is 26 billion. So that's going to give you about a 30x return, 31x, so $31,000 or euro return. And by the way, I think QUBIC is a way better technology than Cardano or Solana, or it is potentially a way better technology if it does what it's supposed to do. And it could eventually go way higher than either of these cryptos ever has. And the whole crypto market is rising. So the floor is rising for the lowest ranked cryptos. So there's huge potential there still. So it's maybe a little late for a project like this to hit those heights in this cycle. But come on, guys, at 20x and hitting a market cap of something like 15 billion is so realistic here. It's really realistic. So overall, I'm going to give this project a score of a 9 out of 10. I think it's just a great project. It's my number one project that I'm investing into right now. I'm only knocking a point off just because we haven't hit it really early. There's quite a high market cap, and it's a really early project, so there's still always potential that could fail, and it's so reliant on one person which is its creator. But I think this is a bit of a no-brainer investment, and it could have a great return.